Hello and welcome to Sossegado Stories from Goa. I'm your host, Clyde D'Souza. I'm a 3-time published author, media professional, and a Goan who loves everything about Goa. My latest book is called Sossegado, The Goan Art of Contentment. In my podcast, I chat with some famous and some of my favorite Goans, and together we explore Goa beyond its beaches. From Feni to Fado, Casa to Cashews, come discover Goa like you've never done before. When you think of Goa, you think of lovely lush greens and blue sky beaches. You think of digital detox, throwing your phone away, and an offline vacation. That's if you're a tourist. And that's all great. But there's a generation of local Goans who are now leading the wave of content creation. From music to films, painting to photography, Goa is going from tourist paradise to a creative heaven. A state that now offers the best place to work and also live. On today's episode, I'm really happy, and we're going to hear the story of Vince Costa, who is helping to create a network for the creative community of Goans in Goa. My guest, Vince Costa, is a filmmaker, musician, photographer, and the founder of Get Creative Goa. His film, Shashticho Kodo, won the Best Short Film Documentary at Asia Independent Festival. That's a lot of hats. Vince, welcome to the Sossegado Stories podcast.
Thank you, Clyde. I'm really happy to be here.
It's amazing. So many different things that you do. We'll get into all of them. Can you tell us, the audience, where you're talking to us from in Goa and your surroundings a bit, if you can?
Absolutely. So basically, I'm based in the south of Goa, in a tiny little village about 10 kilometers from Margao called Kurturi, which is traditionally called Shashticho Kodo, which is the rice bowl of Salset. And the surrounding here is pretty much, evident in terms of its environment. It's a valley, so rice fields, hills. We've got a few water bodies like lakes. And we're right on the border of the river Zuari. So it's really quite a beautiful, beautiful landscape. We get visited by migratory birds at this time of the year. So we've got a lot of birds. And we're blessed with a lot of biodiversity. In fact, this is the first village to have its declaration of biodiversity in Goa. So we already have our own local biodiversity board.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. I mean, it sounds scenic. And I've seen the film and I think it does justice to everything that you just mentioned. Yeah. And Kodo means like a go down, right? In Konkani?
Well, Kodo is, it's like, imagine a silo, basically like a storage space, more than anything else.
And Shashti comes from the word Salset, right? Which is a place in South Goa, right? I mean, a district, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Great. Okay, so like we said in your intro, you're everything, so many different things, photographer, musician, filmmaker, and now the creator of Get Creative Goa. So as such a multi-creative person, what do you define creativity as?
For me, creativity really is something that, for me, it's a spontaneous act of expression, an idea, a concept, a thought, and then kind of then collaborating with people to take it forward.
Yeah, well said. I think one of the things that I also agree with, and for me as well as someone who writes, and I've also just started doodling on my Instagram and everything. I think there are two things that you mentioned. One is expression. For me, the other thing that I think about creativity is also, communicating a feeling, because whenever we put down an idea, it always makes someone feel something, right?
I think also we put it down because we are feeling something. If we weren't feeling it, we wouldn't really care to put it down. Eventually, the person that is on the receiving end is going to sort of feel what we are feeling in that moment.
Yeah.
It's that emotional context that creates the environment for the listener, for the reader, for the person that's watching the film.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and what's nice now is that the older generations, I guess they had certain kind of professions, which is basically they were either migrants or maybe they were working in the fields or they were working on the ship. But now we're seeing a whole new generation of Goans, right? And Goans who are choosing like you to live in Goa and become professionals in slightly different, arenas, which is amazing. I mean, coming to, Get Creative Goa, what sparked you to launch that?
Basically, it's been a dormant idea for a while. And for the longest time, I've always felt that Goa has been blessed with a lot of creators, a lot of creativity. But when you needed to find them, it was just very hard. It's as simple as that. We just couldn't locate where the people were. So it could be as simple as wanting to get a design job done, but where are the designers? And then eventually you end up looking at designers in Bombay or Bangalore, wherever it is, because it's just easier to find them when you Google them or you go to Behance or whatever it is, right? Or and it was not just in the graphic design; it was when it came to music, when it came to audio technicians, or it came to filmmakers, and just all these different types of people that I knew always existed in Goa, but very hard to find. And so out of all of that, there was the whole lockdown thing going on, and I was like, okay, perfect time to sort of give vent to this idea and see what comes out of it. So I had a chat with a couple of my friends and I said, hey guys, do you want to kind of just work on this idea and see what we can come up with? And really it was like a cut and paste, stick together, like kind of really messy kind of way of going about it. But the whole idea was to create a sort of online space where we could collate and bring all the different types of genres of creativity in Goa together in one space. So it could become very easy for people looking for others to find. It was as simple as that. When we put the Wireframe website out, we were just not in any position to realize the kind of response we would get. Like it completely took us by surprise, because what we thought would happen over 3 months or 4 months happened in a week. Like we had numbers of people joining us, like just went through the roof. And it was unbelievable, the response that we got, the Instagram page. And like from there onwards, it's just been a journey of, discovery and kind of going forward. But essentially, if you ask me to define it, Get Creative Goa is a place for the creators of Goa to get discovered, to collaborate, for clients to find them, and for them to find work and eventually put up their stuff and and get it out there to the larger audience.
Amazing. Yeah, it's like a Tinder for creative professionals.
Yeah, exactly. If you like to put it like that, it is like a matchmaking service that we have.
Yeah, I think it's amazing because there was a latent potential of people just lying there, but nobody knew how to connect with each other. And you've kind of just, materialized that and brought it to the surface. Do you think like that's happening a lot more now with Goa? Do you think now there is a generational shift happening with Goa becoming a creative hub of sorts?
From an occupational point of view, Goa was very agrarian by nature. Right. And then from its agrarian roots, it went slowly into industry, but not heavy duty industry that was basically created through mining and then tourism. Yeah. Right. But predominantly, people did not have the resources to send kids to schools and all of that stuff. So that started happening, in the 60s and 70s and all of that stuff. So people started gaining education, and from that came the next generation where people wanted security. So I remember as a kid when I was going to school, the thing by default that you had to become was either a doctor or an engineer, right? And there was absolutely no room for any other sort of choice in career. And if you said anything about like, I want to be a painter, or I want to be an artist, or I want to be a musician, or I want to be a photographer, that was completely unheard of, completely looked down upon, right? For the generations that came from agriculture to then industry to then professions of doctors and engineers, the doctors and engineers, all these guys did stuff where they realized, I did what my parents told me. I have the money now, but maybe I'm not really happy inside for some reason, right? So today they're more open to their kids saying that I don't want to become a doctor. I don't want to become an engineer. I want to become a DJ. I want to become a film producer. And they're encouraging them. They're like, yeah, okay, go for it. Because we don't have to think about money anymore. We're happy to kind of fund your stuff. Go for it, right? So are people becoming more open to these sort of professions, these unheard of professions before? Yes, they are. So you find, obviously, that's why on Get Creative Goa today we have over 700 people. Why? Because We have photographers, we have cake makers, we have the alternates now that it's not they didn't exist before, they exist now in larger numbers and are much more professional about it.
What's the most out of the box creator that you have on Get Creative Goa, which blew your mind away when you saw that this person does this sort of thing?
I saw a guy that makes some really cool 3D printing stuff. That blew my mind. Yeah, I mean, we have close to about 60 genres of creators on Get Creative Goa. So you pretty much will find anyone you're looking for in that genre, and it's growing, and it's because today people are willing to stretch their imagination. Obviously, people now, things have gotten normalized, right? They see other people doing it in other parts of the world, and it's kind of accepted. So it's getting normalized. Earlier, back in the day, the misfit was always the odd one out. The misfit was always the one that was shamed. The misfit was always the black sheep. Now it's the misfits that are leading the way in an ironical way.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm just connecting this bit, to your film, Shashti Chokoro, which is the granary of salt set. That's what that's the byline, right, of the film, in which you've basically gone through a family and the generation of farmers. And it's a bit of a lament also on maybe us losing that generation. And I think that happened with all of us. I mean, I know that my granddad was called a bhatkar, but I've never seen a field in my life. And in the film, which is so beautiful, you can hear the women singing in the fields, and you can hear this guy talking about how he might just be the last person in his family to do that, right? And now looking back, how do you feel about that film? Because obviously that was a love tale on farming, right? But there's also the reality of people moving away from farming, it becoming more corporatized. How do you feel about the film now after so many years?
Well, first of all, about the film, I never approached it because I wanted to make the film. I approached it because I was just documenting what was happening in the village as a part of a project for my family. Before I did that film, I was not really a filmmaker per se. That was my film school in many ways. But I think the film will always be important to me because of what it taught me. The film will always, I think, in a way be important to Goa because of the narrative of that film. The value of it will be seen not now, but the value of that film will come to light, I think, maybe 15 years from now, 20 years from now. As the scene changes, as environment changes, and all of that stuff changes, the context of the film will suddenly come to light. It will be used maybe for academic reasons, it will be used for sociological reasons, anthropological, could be any of that stuff. I think it's an important piece of work on Goa.
So I mean, it's amazing, the whole film, and I hope a lot more people find a way that they can watch it, because especially what's happening with the world today in terms of climate change and people going back to organic food, the creative outlet can also be through farming, and I mean that's happening in pockets, and maybe new generations will also look at that. So you might just have a digital influencer who's a farmer, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, I think that first of all, if we strip back all of the digital influencing, or we strip back any of all these things that we are so kind of accustomed to in today's world, and we just look at farming for what it is, we will then be able to understand that so much of it really is about food security. That really is a priority. And that's what I was trying to say through the film. We have to honor the farmers in the fields. We have to honor the land, and we have to basically look at what's going on and take stock of it before it's too late, because it's not funny. COVID happened. We got locked in for a few days and we realized, man, this is not funny at all to not be able to access food because we're so dependent on the outside world to give us food.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think the film shows that beautifully, and in terms of when you were filming it, so these are people who are like in your village next to you, all of these people who are there in the film.
Yeah. So most of the film is shot in the village.
Wow.
Whenever I've had to step outside the village because of where the narrative needed to go, I've gone outside of the village, and the thing is that whatever is really happening in this village is happening in other villages, and whatever is happening within other villages in this village is happening in other parts of the country and in other parts of the world. So really, you can really look at it from a microcosmic stage, which is what is in here, and go to the macro, and they are really related. So what's happening in Kurturi is something that is identical to what's happening in probably North Carolina or something in America. Because farming is pretty much facing similar and same problems across the world today. Farmers are having the same problems.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, it's of course a huge issue. And I think a lot of people are kind of, waking up to it. So, I mean, that's amazing. Now, in terms of also filmmaking, a lot of people may not know, but Goa also had a lot of great films, right? Like Nirmon and Amche Nushib and all of these really old films, which had some outstanding actors, some great singers. So, do you think like there are more stories that Goa needs to tell, not only non-fiction and documentary, but also just stories from Goa? And what do you think those should be? Should they be about rice? Should they be about rivers? What is it? What do you think?
It's hard, and I think it'll be unfair for me to define what kind of story should be told from Goa, because I think that really is born in the minds of the creators. But if you ask me, are there stories in Goa? I think a million and one.
Yeah.
I see them all around me. Goa has a story in every street, every corner, every home. I see stories everywhere, and they're not just simple stories. I see beautiful stories in Goa. I think that there are so many stories that need to be told. And I think that's what Get Creative Goa wants to do. We recently ran a competition called Carnival in 5, which was, if anybody out there can use Carnival as the backdrop and shoot a short film in 5 or up to 5 minutes, send them across, and you can win something. It's not really about the prize, but it's about to sort of kickstart the film thinking. The film, it's a part of culture, Clyde. It doesn't just happen overnight. You've got to kind of inculcate this. You got to kind of motivate it. You got to kind of support it. You got to make people think about these things, right? Filmmakers are not just going to be born overnight. It takes time, but stories are everywhere, and people need to see them. And more than fiction, I think non-fiction, there's so much to be documented in Goa, which needs serious documentation.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I was coming to, which is basically, culture is built through, of course, community, living in the community. Then it's built through oral stories, and it's built through documentation, right? So there's so much that needs to be documented from historical perspective, from a cultural perspective. And yeah, I'm just thinking, I think maybe you will come up with something. I'm sure
I
you will.
actually just finished shooting my film because I was inspired with Carnival too.
Right.
So I'm going to be kind of putting that film out on Sunday.
Oh, lovely.
So the film will be out by then, and then I'll have this one on YouTube so people can watch it wherever they are.
Oh, that's lovely. Your Instagram page is very lively, energetic. It's now moved from just being a networking place to also creating content, right? So the part that you just spoke about, which was the Carnival, which happens just before Lent for Catholics, who go in Catholics. And I saw that the videos that you put out there with all of these old timers, a guy called Funkito, right, and so many other people, and they spoke about like this. He spoke about how he didn't let Vijay Mallya enter the Club Nacional, right, because the theme was red and black, and Vijay Mallya was not wearing red and black. So these are the stories. That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's these amazing stories which showcase a culture and the people. So I'm looking forward to your film, on this Sunday. And what's it called? I mean, are you going to? Does it have a name or something?
It's basically it's a Konkani name. I end up naming my films in Konkani because I shoot so much in villages, right?
Mm-hmm.
The film is called Sotrai, Kher Polanarang Sotrai, which means attention, watchers of street drama, attention. It's basically if you lived in Goa, you would be very used to this phrase, because it's what, as kids, we all grew up listening to whenever there was a local drama that was going to be performed on the church grounds.
Yeah, like a theatre.
There would be a tempo that would go around with a microphone.
Yes.
And the guy would be announcing this and throwing the leaflets out of his tempo.
Right.
This is exactly what he would be saying to get our attention. So the film really is about the Keltiats that happened during Carnival. So I kind of used the tagline, which is what they say.
Yeah, no, that's great. And is the theatre scene picking up now again?
It is very, very active, Clyde. I think it's one of the most active theatrical forms in India today.
Yeah.
We have theaters that are performed. Okay, COVID has affected it
Yes,
really
yes.
badly.
Yeah.
COVID affected. But now that COVID is kind of, there's been a respite, I see no reason why the theater scene should not be back up and running. I think it will. Will I work in that arena? I think it's very important to actually do some work in there and documentation, because that is like one of the most under documented parts of our Goan culture, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, my family are fans of Prince Jacob and all of these guys. And whenever they come down to Mumbai or when we go to Goa, yeah, we're always watching them. And yeah, it's amazing. So any theatrists that you anyone that you can name that you like, or who are your personal favorites?
I think as a kid, I grew up going to a lot of Rosefunds theaters. Uh,
Okay,
and I haven't watched the arts in a long time, but I think given a choice, I would go and watch a Rosefun Theatre and Prince Jacob. In fact, Prince Jacob was the comedian in Rosefun's Theatres back in the day,
right,
and then later he left and went on to start his own theatres.
right.
But then there are other guys. There was a very famous theatrist that was my neighbor for so many years called William the Kurturi.
Yeah, I've heard of him. Great. Yeah, so the other thing that happened to me when I was writing my book, right? I started, of course, researching on Goa and Goans, and I noticed that there were a lot of young kids from Goa who are, I mean, you can call them influencers, whatever you want to call them. I just like to call them creative people. They've just taken to Instagram, right? And they're kind of killing it. I mean, there's food bloggers, there are travel bloggers, and it's nice to see that, right? Because there's like this new confidence that's in this young generation.
Yes.
And what do you think about some of them? And anyone that you follow, who do you think we should be looking out for?
I think a lot of the majority of Goan content creators are into the lifestyle thing, wherein it's either about restaurants or it's about travel or it's about products or food, right? And then you have content creators that talk about technical stuff like audio and could be reviewing audio equipment or teaching or things. And we have a lesser number of them in Goa, right? I would love to see more of those content creators. But if you ask me, like straight off the bat, you're like, okay, which are some of the Goan pages on Instagram you should kind of follow or look at? I'd say the Goan Pao for his humor, a very typical Goan. Like he's got this whole Goan humor thing going.
Yeah, I like him. Yeah.
There is Hungry Wolf for like his food blogs and all of that stuff. There is this girl by the name of Larissa, who's a big influencer. There is Natella Onella, who's another big influencer. Then there is a DJ, Anish Gera.
Yeah, and the other thing that I want to ask you is obviously, see, a lot of the digital influencers are personalities, and if you look at the global stage and the world and what's happening in other cities in India, there are a lot of brands who are kind of chasing them, and they can literally make a profession out of it. Are you seeing that happening in Goa? I mean, maybe it's happening with some of the food bloggers, maybe it's happening with some of the lifestyle ones, the touristy ones, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But are you seeing brands? Because now what you've done is you have connected, in that sense, you've connected some creative professionals with the clients, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
But are you also seeing this other scene hotting up a little bit where brands are reaching out to influencers? Do you seeing that? Are you a part of that?
I've not entered into that equation right now. It's pretty democratic. People are listed and brands can contact them and sign contracts or deals with them directly. So I'm not a middleman. I'm not in the middle of that. But to answer your question, if you look at art, the artist today or the creator today, they're the people that either have the skill or the concepts or the ideas, and then somebody else wants to use that, right? Where I find this sort of incongruence happening in this market is where a lot of advantage is being taken of creators, of artists, because somebody's trying to get them to do things for free, or promise them, hey, you know what, I'll give you exposure, do it for nothing, or do it for very little. Right. And at the end of the day, I think the artists have bills to pay, just like anybody else. The creators have bills to pay. What I feel, artists, whether they are influencers or whether they are musicians or whether if they're good, they need professional management.
Correct.
Once they get professional management, then what happens is a brand or whoever it is can't really muck around with them because there's a certain fee.
Hmm.
And instead of dealing directly with them, there is a way to actually make sure that people are not getting taken advantage of, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
as Get Creative Go, we haven't really gotten into that space as yet, but we would like to create the awareness. We've already started, but we would like to create the awareness wherein we, really push that message forward that artists should really not be taken advantage of.
Yeah. No, yeah, because there's a lot of stuff happening, especially with India, right? I mean, I'm the way I'm looking at it is that India currently is like at this going through this phase of like a golden age of entrepreneurs, of unicorns, of creative people. Anybody with someone who had some dream or some passion, they're able to do that, and they're able to succeed in it. For example, like Punjab is seeing like this music revolution, right? South is seeing a film revolution, Bangalore a tech one. Like, what do you think is Goa's revolution?
Well, uh, Goa has to want to create a revolution. you know,
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
Goa has everything here. The talent is here, everything is here. But I think the one thing that lets Goa down is it's
Hmm.
laid back. One of the biggest challenges that I've come across is getting the people in a way to be professional about their time.
Hmm.
We could say back in the day, we are Susegad, and that was my grandfather and my
Hmm.
great grandfather. But
Hmm.
today, I don't know whether we have the luxury to be Susegad anymore. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
I think alongside Susegad, there definitely needs to be balance.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, I want to reclaim that word Susegad,
Yeah.
and the meaning of Susegad should actually become balance, which is what's happening, right? I mean, there is burnout on one end, and then there is complete laid back on the other end,
Yeah.
right? And Susegad is basically in the middle. That's what it should be, ideally. So,
Yeah, I think there needs to be that balance. But to answer your question, given the infrastructure that we have, given the natural beauty that we have, given all of the stuff that we have, I think our revolution could really be creativity. We could be the creative hub of India. We could be that place wherein we have infrastructure built for people that want to come in and work on concepts and ideas that solve problems that are possible issues that are going to come up in the future.
yeah, because I see a lot of influencers from Goa, and especially a lot of young Goans, they're very sensitive to ecology, to the environment.
Environment is just one part of the things that we need to answer today.
Hmm.
One of the issues that we need to answer. There are so many more that other things that in Goa we need to start creating.
Hmm.
It could be redefining what is the education system, or redefining the way we look at education today, and what are people learning, and is it redundant? Is it necessary to do that? It could be in areas of sport. Instead of starting industries that are based on, heavy drawing huge amount of natural resources, maybe we could look at industries now, building industries that are, you know, something in the areas of future technology. Green
Hmm.
tech.
Hmm.
There are so many things, man. But to be honest, it's the place. Goa is a place that has always drawn the creative people from all over the world. Whether you look at it in the hippie revolution, where the hippies came in from San Francisco and started the whole music thing in Goa. Whether you look at the later on,
Yeah.
it was different people that came from different parts of Goa to make Goa their home. Different parts of India that people came in, whether it's architects or designers or hoteliers or restaurateurs. People came in. The creative people have always come into Goa. So
Yeah.
it's all here. It's all here. It's just about infrastructure,
Correct.
supporting all these people.
Yeah. So, yeah, let's hope that, I mean, Goa has always been this magnet, wins for people, like you mentioned. And let's just hope that one is that they fall in love with the place. And once they love a place, like literally love it, then they'll probably hopefully take care of it as well. Right?
Well, that is something that we have to hope for.
Hope. Yes. Yes. We have to hope
It's
for that.
something that we can, enforce, because that comes from within, right? If you love something, you want to take care of it.
Exactly. Yeah. So speaking of love, now that comes to my next segment, Susegad Secret segment. What do you think? And we just spoke a little bit about the term Susegad itself. So with this new term in mind, which is balance, what would you say is your Susegad secret?
For me, it's nature. So for me, Susegad is in my mind, it's something that in many ways embodies the feeling of being content, simply content, or content simply. It does not take much. You don't need to have much to have that feeling of being Susegad. And for me, I think it's when I'm in the lap of nature. It's like when I am walking on that beach by myself, and I'm at peace with everything, right? Like there is no internal strife, there is nothing, there is no agenda. I'm just there, I'm just walking, or I'm sometimes in company. I've got friends around me, and we're just having a laugh and a chat, and in that moment I can feel that sense of Susegad. Peaceful, easy feeling. The Eagles have that song called Peaceful, Easy Feeling.
Yeah, great song.
Yeah. So for me, it's Susegad is something like that song. It's a peaceful, easy feeling.
Yeah, that's nice. Peaceful, easy feeling. That's a good one. My next question is, what is the meaning of love to you?
Wow, that's deep. It's the people around me, I think. It's the people around me that give me the context of love.
Okay.
Love without all of that stuff is pretty non-contextual.
Right.
You feel love because something gives you the context of love. So for me, it's family that gives me the context of love. It's relationships that give me the context of love. It's my work that gives me my passion that gives me the context of love. It could be as simple as spending time with my dog that gives me the context of love. In that moment, I know that I care deeply about whatever it is that I am either interacting with or whatever is interacting with me.
It's nicely put. I mean, the equation with people, and that's what you're saying, is kind of love, maybe. So now my next segment, it's the rapid fire round. Okay, so yeah, here goes. Your favorite Goan storyteller and film?
The film is Amche Noshib.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite Goan storyteller is Lorna.
Wow, that's a good one. Okay, I'll let our audience go and discover Lorna and Google her, and they hopefully will. Okay, your favorite creative person, maybe an old-timer?
I'm going to sound really cheesy saying this, but I actually love the work of Mario Miranda. People know Mario Miranda's later work, but if you look at some of the older work and you study it and you look at the journals and stuff that he did, you can really see the evolution of a creative mind. What an absolutely amazing creative mind.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. All right, your favorite Goan traditional song?
I think it would have to be Maud Bailo Do from Amche Noshib.
Oh yeah. That's such a good song. Do you remember? Can you sing the line from it? That's one of my favorites as well.
Yeah. Mogana son bore ashito mare.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. And can you tell people what it means?
Mogana son bore. Well, it's a love song really, where the guy is talking about love, and basically in it he's describing this ethereal place in a way,
Yeah, nice. It's a great song, and I hope people listen to it. All right, your favorite young, I mean, you named a few some time back, but one of your personal favorite social media influencers from Goa?
I think I would have to say Hungry Wolf because of the food.
I have to check him out. Okay, what's a Konkani phrase or term that you like to use, regularly, whether it's our voice or, whatever it is? What's a Goan phrase or term that you use?
It's pretty. I can't say it here because a lot of it is slang and not meant for the audience. But I think
you can go ahead. We still don't have censorships on podcasts, so I think we can. I think, and you know what? I think it should be necessary for people to learn slangs. That's one of the ways to fall in love with a place. So please go ahead.
Okay, then in that case it would be I would have to probably use the word chedecha in it, which is you know. It's not the politest of words to use in Goa. But yeah.
Actually, what does cherecha mean? I've heard it so many times. I mean, I get when someone says it, I know that they're cursing and
Yeah.
they're being derogatory. But what
It's like
actually does cherecha mean? I don't know.
it's like in a way, son of a bitch.
Ah, yes. No, great, Vince. This has been fun, absolutely fun, amazing, and I think Get Creative Goa is just beginning to grow in ways that we are hopefully going to see way bigger than what it is and what you had started out with. It's of course a nice platform for creative professionals in Goa to get in touch with each other, and we can see that, and that's amazing. So it's been a great conversation, and thank you for coming on to the Susegard Stories podcast.
My pleasure, Clyde. Thank you so much for inviting me and for having me here as a guest. I totally appreciate it and this time that you've given to listen to my 2 bits. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And I'm going to keep checking your Instagram, and I always end with my favorite phrase, which is Moga Suni.
Moga Suni. Yes.
Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of Susegard Stories from Goa. Do subscribe if you're a new listener and join a community of people who love and live the Goan lifestyle. Again, I'm Clyde D'Souza, and for more Goan content, you can follow me on Instagram at Clyde D'Souza Author. This podcast is brought to you by Bound, a company that helps you grow through stories. Follow them at Bound India on all social platforms for updates on this podcast, or take a look at their other podcasts. Moga Suni, and see you soon.